Certainly, everyone is aware of the heroin crisis in this country. It has been covered dozens of times. But late last summer, our newsroom got word that there were so many fatal overdoses in Northeast Ohio that refrigerated trucks were being used to hold the overflow of bodies. So we decided it was time to team up with first responders from throughout Northeast Ohio to get a bird's eye view of the killing fields they deal with every day.
In this city, it's kind of, you can have a call anywhere. You'll be amazed at the different locations that we get calls for overdoses in.
911 calls just keep coming. On the other end of the line, life is slipping away.
Yeah, let me give you a call back here. I'm going to go see if this is an overdose or not.
There's a mass killer in town that isn't giving emergency crews a minute's rest. Channel 3 spent weeks embedded with ambulance companies in small towns across Ohio to get as close as possible to the people living and dying in the opioid epidemic.
Possible male in a black vehicle slumped over the wheel overdosing.
We get people in cars all the time. Do you know what you took? What was it?
When heroin users take too much, an overdose, their heart rate and breathing slow drastically. Unchecked, they'll stop breathing and die.
I don't have a needle.
You don't have a needle? Well, I found a spoonful of heroin.
Lorain police arrived in time and revived the driver with naloxone, the drug commonly known as Narcan.
Try not to step in the vomit.
It immediately reverses the effect of opiates like heroin.
His second time being revived with Narcan.
Narcan is definitely a godsend.
Every week here, supplies run low. Some weeks, they run out. Life care crews responded to overdose calls every day except one in August. There were not only more calls than last August, they needed 60% more Narcan doses. The drug problem is spreading like wildfire. If heroin is dumping gasoline on the blaze, fentanyl is the rocket fuel for the crisis in Ohio. It's a synthetic drug that's 50 times stronger than heroin. Overcoming a fentanyl overdose can take a staggering amount of Narcan. That became clear to us the longer we stayed with crews. Day after day.
Possible overdose, we're right down the block.
And night after night.
Actually, we've been to this house before. This is going to be an overdose. We were just here last week. What's his pupils like?
They were like ones.
Oh, he's still pinpoint. Chad! Hey, buddy.
Go up to squad to get more Narcan.
All right. We're on box number 4. And still nothing. A lot of times I don't think they're expecting to get fentanyl. I think they're expecting to get heroin, and that's it. Chad! Hey, bud.
Chad, wake up.
Chad! There you go. Relax, buddy.
There you are. Good morning.
Relax.
Sit down, bud.
Relax.
Sit down, bud.
I want to say we gave 8 boxes, which is 2 milligrams per box, so we just gave 16 milligrams of Narcan. It took a little longer than normal. That's why I'm pretty positive there was fentanyl or carfentanil in that. You didn't do anything?
No.
Okay, well, the hospital will be able to tell you what you took. All right, guys.
The lucky ones make it to the hospital.
But for every one of the lucky ones like Chad who managed to survive the storm, there are the unlucky ones like Marcos. For his family, heartbreak. And if you think it's just heroin that's killing people, you'd be wrong. When we come back, we'll introduce you to Gray Death, heroin's more lethal chemical cousin. As our crews continue to spend time with first responders, they shifted their focus to Trumbull County, where the number of overdoses is rising at an unprecedented rate, hastened perhaps by the murderer, known as Gray Death.
Overdose fatalities in Lorain County this year are on pace with last year's toll of 132.
When we got there, we found the body on the front porch.
Marcos Pagan was 43. His mother told me the last conversation they had was on the same porch the night before. Marcos said he was worried about his own daughter's drug use.
It's hard to say right now exactly what caused this.
These people have a drug problem. It's not a death wish. They don't want to die.
Dr. Stephen Evans is the Lorain County coroner.
It's like the waves of the ocean. I can't stop it. It keeps coming. It keeps coming.
The lethal cocktail known on the streets as Gray Death is here now. a mixture of heroin, fentanyl, and other opioids. Mixed drug combinations are responsible for over 90% of accidental overdose deaths.
We're overwhelmed. You know, our volume's 10 times. 10 times. One thing, you know, you go up 10% or 20% on your volume, you know, you think you're busy. No, we're 10 times the volume that we were 10 years ago. I mean, it's unbelievable.
We asked him about Marcos.
Overdose includes 3-methylfentanyl, which is one of those analogs of fentanyl, and heroin.
This data reveals where fatal fentanyl overdoses occurred in Ohio, and that led us to Trumbull County. Within 90 minutes of pulling into the city of Warren, we were on an overdose call.
This week was my third overdose. It comes in waves.
The wave we found ourselves in the middle of was more like a tsunami. There were 21 overdoses the day before we arrived. By the end of September, there were 215 overdoses, the highest monthly tally so far in Trumbull County.
Hey, Tyler.
She told us that he did take heroin. He was barely breathing. He was only breathing like a couple times a minute. So we started giving Narcan right off to that.
How many did you use today?
Today I used 4 vials, so 8 milligrams. Hey, Tyler.
Tyler survived. Less than 2 days before his brush with death, he posted this on Facebook: "Nothing changes if nothing changes."
A lot of people will die. Unfortunately, I wish I had an answer.
It is bleak. I mean, it's a bleak picture.
Americans have beaten epidemics before, contagious diseases like polio and AIDS. But there's never been a drug epidemic like this before. It's unparalleled. No one's saying when the skyrocketing numbers will come back to Earth, or exactly how.
This drug problem is, I keep telling people, it's an ore boat. It's an ore boat. The ore boats don't turn. You know, they don't make right turns. You have to slowly, it takes miles and miles and miles to turn an ore boat. It's the same thing here. This is such a big problem. It's a big boat. It's going to take us miles and miles and miles to turn it.
Nobody forces them to put the needle in their arm.
Fighting the epidemic or fighting victims?
And with all this fentanyl and carfentanil, these people eject these drugs themselves. Shame on them.
The Butler County Sheriff takes a controversial stand on Narcan, the drug that reverses the effects of overdoses.
We don't use Narcan here, and nor will I, unless the law changes and they make me do it.
That might be exactly what happens under a national public health emergency. Today, a presidential commission issued its final report, which includes a call to action that would put Narcan in the hands of every law enforcement officer in the United States. Sheriff Jones sees no point.
Narcan is this much in this issue. All it does is brings them back so they can do it some more.
No, we're throwing them life jackets. We're throwing them life buoys. I mean, come on. I mean, we need to help these people.
Dr. Stephen Evans is the coroner in Lorain County. He lives with the death toll every day. His pilot program to provide Narcan to local law enforcement has saved more than 300 people here in recent years. At the same time, deaths nationwide from synthetic opioids like fentanyl exploded 540%. Up from 3,000 in 2013 to a staggering 20,000 last year. In Ohio, fentanyl is driving the surge.
You have one fentanyl one week, and the second week you have a different fentanyl.
Tracking new designer drugs isn't cheap. The director of the Lorain County Crime Lab says labs need more money to keep up.
We have to have financial support to continue what we're doing, because the drugs out there continue to evolve and diversify.
The panel also recommends rapidly increasing addiction treatment bed capacity. Nationally, the U.S. already spends $36 billion on treatment. The state's medical director for mental health and addiction services says a chunk of that money is going to good use already here, but there's more to it than that.
We shouldn't really look at just treatment beds, because treatment is a lot more complicated than beds.
Ohio has already spent $1 billion on the fight.
If we had 10 times this amount of money, it's not going to turn around in 2017.
The man whose job it is to tally the butcher's bill in this battle sees the cost beyond the dollars and cents.
The price of our problem isn't in money, and we've lost so much, and it's not in dollars. It's definitely in human cost.
Chris Cantorgiani, Channel 3 News. We wanted to get the first responder perspective to the heroin problem. Channel 3 sent out one-man crews to small towns around Ohio to spend days, even weeks, with ambulance crews. Using GoPros, iPhones, and handheld cameras, we went along for the ride. It became clear that fentanyl, the designer drug sent through the mail from China, has hijacked heroin and is now the main drug overpowering users here.
We're on box number 4, and it's still nothing.
Crews are going on overdose calls every day of the week, multiple calls a day, using what seems like gallons of the overdose reversing drug Narcan, and they're running out.
This is from Friday until now, and we're completely out of Narcan. That was 42 boxes that was in the cabinet.
Now that shot of that empty Narcan bin makes you realize how much of this they're using when they used to not use it at all.
Hey, Tyler.
And, I think after a couple of weeks of running on calls, I see what these paramedics are dealing with, and it's futile, it's frustrating. I don't know how it's going to end. This isn't reality TV. This is the reality of Ohio and the opioid epidemic. I do feel like we're getting the elements we need to tell the story, to tell people, to show people, what is going on.